Here we go! Q&A episode 8. Mega Nintendo Boy asks, what is your favorite Spyro game? My favorite Spyro game is Spyro 2 Ripto's Rage. And it's kinda sad because I've never actually talked about it on my channel before. Usually, when I bring up Spyro, it usually involves the Legend of Spyro series. You all should know that. And, that's typically because with the topics I tend to talk about, they're more suited to the Legend trilogy than to the classic games. I rarely talk about things like levels or nostalgia or other things that I personally like in the classic Spyro, and I tend to talk more about things like characters and story elements and other things that are just done better in the Legend series but aren't as important in the classic Spyro games. But moving past that, Spyro 2. Wow, do I have some good memories in this game. Spyro 3 is the better game from a technical standpoint, but Spyro 2 just has this great charm to it and this great world to explore. And it really is just a more involving game than Spyro 3. That's the word I'm looking for. Spyro 3 is better from a technical standpoint, it plays better, there aren't as many frustrating sections, but Spyro 2, I just love it. Forgive me for being blinded by nostalgia, but I just love it. So yeah, there's your answer to that. Spyro 2. Hopefully I'll talk more about the classic Spyro games in the future, but for now, this is actually the first time I've talked about classic Spyro on my channel ever. That's kinda sad. Alright, Francisco Melendez asks, what do you think of Sonic 06? From a technical standpoint, terrible. Absolutely terrible. The controls, awful. The glitches, too many to count. The characters, some of them were just terrible. Elise, Shadow wasn't that good in this game, and Silver, well, I kinda liked Silver, some people didn't like him, and then Sonic's portrayal wasn't that good either. But, on the contrary, the music, outstanding. The story is actually pretty good, considering it involves time travel. And there's also that there's 3 different story arcs all crisscrossing within another. That's very difficult to pull off. But overall, I like Sonic 06 because it's fun. I just love going around a random stage, finding as many glitches as I can. It's just one hell of a time to be had. That's why the Game Grumps did a full Let's Play of Sonic 06. Because there's just so much fun to be had with it. Terrible game, but I've had a good amount of enjoyment with it. Starbreaker987 asks, who is your favorite YouTuber? I think, if I had to pick one, my favorite YouTuber would be this, well, it's not really a YouTuber, but it's a channel called TED Talks. And basically what TED Talks is every weekday they release a video of some new person giving a lecture about some new topic. These lectures last usually somewhere between 10 and 20 minutes, and usually they're very interesting. Like, there's one about, there's one lecture in particular that I liked about, there was a magician, and he was talking about how he could control your mind, quote-unquote, with his, misdirection and his magic. And then there was another lecture about a woman who escaped North Korea. And then there was another talk, from... what was that really interesting one? That one I really, really liked. There was a lecture from a guy who invented a machine that could let you play you could plug it into anything like a banana and play it like a piano. And there's just tons of really unique and interesting things that go on this channel, and it's really interesting to see something new and something original every weekday. Beaker Maru asks, what is your scariest nostalgic moment? Don't even have to think about this one. The Headless Horseman from The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. I remember that my family used to watch The Legend of Sleepy Hollow every Halloween. I remember that I would watch it once, and then every year after that, for about maybe 10 years, whenever it would come on, I would go away into my room, I would do something else for an hour, and then I'd come back down. Because, wow, it freaked me out. Something about the eyes, something about the laugh, it just was the right combination of things to really freak me out as a kid. And even today, there's still a bit of that scariness to him, because, the more you think about it, we never really know if the Headless Horseman is real. Of course, when I was a kid, I thought it was real, but looking back on it today, it's never really said if the Headless Horseman is a real figure, or if it's just a hallucination of Ichabod Crane, an extension of his fears. That is kind of creepy in a sense, and it really keeps The Legend of Sleepy Hollow interesting. I'm not scared of it anymore, but I am intrigued. There's still that level of intrigue with the Headless Horseman. So yeah, that's my scariest nostalgic moment. D. Polaristar asks, what is a countdown you will never do? I will never do a least favorite to favorite boss battle countdown. You know the ones like a top 25 No More Heroes bosses by the Autarch of Flame, top 19 Okami bosses by Speedy Man, top 13 Mad World bosses also by the Autarch of Flame. I just never really liked that kind of setup. I prefer to watch countdowns that are either fully positive or fully negative. I'm not really sure why I didn't like that concept, and I did try it. I did try it with top 17 Pokemon types back in Pokemon a whole year ago. Psh, wow, it's been a year since that. Doesn't even seem like it. I tried it with top 17 Pokemon types, and I didn't even like it doing it. So, that's probably the last time I'm gonna do a least favorite to favorite type of countdown. I might try it again in the future, but not with boss battles, because one, it's not... Because of the way it's set up, it can get very repetitive. Like with top 13 Mad World bosses, a lot of the things the Autarch of Flame kept saying were very similar to each other. And that's not his fault in any sense, it's simply because the way it's set up. You're talking about a boss fight in one game, and the bosses themselves might be different, but like the combat and the setup are all similar to each other. So it gets a bit boring, to be honest, those types of countdowns. Not to mention there's those middle choices where it's like, it's not good, but it's not bad, it's sort of just okay. Yeah, that bores me. No offense to people who do those type of countdowns, but they're just not my type of thing. I might do another in the future just to try it out again, but I'm probably not going to be doing these too often. Ibans2, or however you pronounce that, asks, what Metal Gear game is your favorite? Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance is my favorite Metal Gear game. Why? Well, frankly, it's an action game, not a stealth game. That's really the only reason. The Metal Gear Solid series is great for what it is, but stealth just never really was my type of thing with games. I appreciate them for their great storylines, their fantastic music, and their unforgettable characters, but I just like Rising Revengeance more as a game. I know that might sound petty of me, but it's the truth. Sue me. I mean, I get why people like the Metal Gear Solid games, and I like them too to an extent, but I'd rather play a game where you hack people to bits than a game where you sneak around people. That's just me. It doesn't have to be your opinion, but that's the way I am. Nintendo Countdown asks, what's your opinion on the Professor Layton series? I think they're just okay, to be honest. The gameplay in the Professor Layton series is a collection of various puzzle-solving minigames. They're okay, I guess, but not really that interesting. And it's not like puzzle games in general bore me. Games like Ace Attorney and Portal, they showed us that puzzle games can go well beyond just the simple little mini-games that the Professor Layton series is built on. I'm not saying every puzzle game has to be new and interesting, but I don't know, I'm just a bit tired of the old random puzzle mini-games. As far as storylines go, they're pretty good. Diabolical Box in particular, I thought was very well written, and it had a nice suspense to it. The other games are pretty good too, just Diabolical Box I thought was really good. The music, for the most part, is pretty good. Nice and memorable, nice and lighthearted. Cutscenes and voice acting are obviously very advanced for the DS. Well, 3DS in the case of Miracle Mask. Overall, there's some things going for the series, they're just not my cup of tea. Red LOL123 asks, what do you think about the Doom games? The Doom games are so much fun. For as old as those games are, relatively speaking, they're still hold up very well today. I didn't play the first two Doom games until more than a decade after their original release, and they were still fun. They're still functional and can be very enjoyable at times, and even a little bit on the creepy side, I'm not gonna lie. Doom 3 and Doom 4, they weren't as good, they were just more conventional. But then again, it is difficult for any franchise to just reboot like that after being inactive for so long. And they weren't bad games, they were just underwhelming. So yeah, Doom 1 and Doom 2, awesome for the time and still pretty awesome today. Doom 3 and Doom 4, not bad, but not as good. Kirby Star Warrior asks, what do you think of the Skylanders games? The way I see it, Skylanders is picked on a bit too much. For those of you who don't know, the concept behind Skylanders is that you can collect these little statues of characters in the game, you place the statue onto a magic pad, and that character is instantly teleported into the world of the game, ready to go on an adventure and fight off other creatures. Yeah, that does make the games a pretty obvious money sponge, since, well, you have to buy the individual statues. So yeah, it's a money sponge. But if you look past that, the games aren't half bad. The gameplay is functional and can be pretty fun. The different characters provide some nice variety. The first game in particular, Spyro's Adventure, provided a pretty good single-player mode too. Not quite as good as the other Spyro games, but it was still there. So yeah, that's what I think of Skylanders. It's not anything deep or anything great, but it's definitely not terrible. Final question of the day, Metalibrax asks, Chespin, Fennekin, or Froakie? It's hard to judge since we know so little about them at this point, but I'm thinking I might go with Fennekin. Again, it's hard to say because all we really know about them is their name, their design, and a couple of the moves they can learn. There's just something about Fennekin's design that draws me to it. Maybe because it's a fox, and I like foxes. It's not a Froakie Water is my second favorite type, so I think Froakie might be good. I don't know, I might like Froakie when we know more about him, but at the moment, I'm thinking I'm gonna go with Fennekin. So, there's your answers, and that's the end of this Q&A session. Be sure to leave me more questions down in the comments below, and tell me what you think about some of my thoughts, some of my answers. Also, make sure you follow me on Twitter. You can bug me on my Gmail account if you want. And overall, have a nice day, and I'll see you guys next time with Top 30 Favorite Pokemon.